Chapter 6171. Just like that, the Dark Sacred Assembly's founding ceremony came to an end, and the 5 guilds returned in defeat. Lu Hongwei spoke a lot about the changes after the Dark Sacred Assembly was established, the various considerations he had made, and the reasons for his final decision. It was not because he was forced by the situation, but the result of careful consideration. Not only that, but he also reprimanded Feng Yuxian and the others for their actions this time and prevented similar situations from happening in the future. Feng Yuxian and the others did not say anything before leaving. They were exhausted and only hoped to go back and rest quickly. Of course, another more important reason was that they had lost all their face today. They really did not want to face other people's gazes. Lu Hongwei also left after explaining some things. The Dark Sacred Assembly was a newly established guild, and Bewitching and the others must have set up many rules themselves. What he explained was nothing more than some common rules between the 8 guilds, as well as some rules that needed to be followed on a daily basis. Although the 8 guilds usually operated independently and did not have much contact with each other, the safety of the entire upper realm was related to them. Therefore, under some special circumstances, they could not avoid working together. Bewitching naturally did not have any objections to this. In this battle, whether it was the D family, the Lin family, or the Dark Sacred Assembly, all of them had suffered significant losses. During the battle, everyone's hearts had never been calm. However, when they were cleaning up the mess, they felt even more sad. Facing the fallen cultivators, Bewitching felt very guilty. His expression was very gloomy all day, and he exuded a faint sadness. Bewitching, none of us wanted to see this happen, but this was forced by the situation. Everyone can understand. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Bewitching with concern. Bewitching had not said much all day, but she could understand Bewitching's thoughts with just one look. Normally, they would often fight, and they had seen many deaths and injuries. However, when all of this was related to the family members they cared about, they could not help but feel sad. Bewitching nodded slightly. I understand. Everyone understands. Otherwise, everyone would not be so determined to help me. It's just that I can't help but feel guilty when I see the sad faces of the deceased cultivators' loved ones. He was the young master of the clan, and his responsibility was to protect the cultivators of the clan. However, he was also the one who had caused so much damage to everyone. In fact, after he had decided to do this, he had hesitated, worried that his family would be affected by his actions. But at the same time, he was also very clear that his strength alone was not enough. Bailey Hongzhuang hugged Bewitching from behind. Her lips curled into a faint smile. She could feel all of Bewitching's guilt and sorrow. She thought that the reason why she liked Bewitching so much was not only because of his handsome appearance and powerful strength, but also because of his sense of responsibility. Compared to the selfishness of Jun Lingshuan and the others, his sense of responsibility to carry everything on his shoulders was the biggest shining point, and also the biggest difference between them. I understand what you're thinking. This kind of grief from the death of your loved ones is very difficult to bear, but have you noticed that everyone never looked at you with the slightest bit of blame? This was because these sacrifices were for a better future. The stronger the clan, the better the protection of the clan's descendants in the future. Chapter 6172. For this point, Bailey Hongzhuang had only discovered it a while ago. In the past, they had always fought alone and had never implicated the entire family. Originally, she didn't know how to face those gazes. It wasn't until she noticed that there wasn't the slightest bit of resentment in everyone's eyes that she understood that this was the feeling of a family. Their small family had indeed been hurt, but they understood that the big family had a better future. Therefore, she understood at that moment. For a big family to be able to stand tall, this kind of thing had definitely happened more than once or twice. Everyone had already prepared to sacrifice themselves for the family, just as the family would always protect them. This was the cohesion of a family. Bailey Hongzhuang's gentle voice walked into Bewitching's heart, bringing a trace of sunlight to his heart that was shrouded in darkness. That trace of sunlight gradually grew stronger, dispelling the surrounding darkness and bringing light and warmth. Bewitching suddenly turned around. Hongzhuang, I want to go out and take a look. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and nodded. Okay. Walking on the family's road, one by one, the disciples passed by them. Noticing that the crowd not only didn't have the slightest bit of criticism, but instead, their gazes were filled with admiration, Bewitching suddenly understood what Bailey Hongzhuang meant. Young master is really too amazing. He actually established the Dark Sacred Assembly. He's really great. From now on, no one will dare to provoke our family anymore because everyone knows how powerful our young master is. You don't know how proud I was of the family when I felt their gazes on me at that time. A group of 14 to 15-year-old cultivators gathered together. They didn't participate in this battle, but they saw it. Look, everyone is proud of you. Bailey Hongzhuang's face bloomed with a spring breeze smile. Looking at these children who hadn't been cultivating for long, she couldn't help but think of herself. Bewitching's expression gradually eased, and his heart gradually relaxed. Not far away, some of the older cultivators were also walking over slowly. Young master, it's great that you're able to establish the Dark Sacred Assembly. My son is also a dark attribute cultivator. He won't have to feel inferior in the future. A man looked at Bewitching excitedly. Because the young master was also of the dark attribute, his son was not kicked out of the family because of this. However, it was inevitable that he would feel inferior. Now, everything had finally changed. This is what I should do. Bewitching's lips curled into a smile. At this moment, his heart was completely at ease. Indeed, there were many casualties this time, but in the future, countless darkness-type cultivators would benefit. All in all, it was all worth it. Noticing the change in Bewitching's expression, the smile on Bailey Hongzhuang's face became brighter. After the battle ended, the D family first held a memorial ceremony for the cultivators who had fallen in this battle. Diu Jue also gave more compensation to the families of these cultivators. Every cultivator who had sacrificed themselves for the family was a hero. They were the pride that they would always remember. After everything was arranged properly, the D family held a celebratory feast to celebrate their success. This was not only the success of the Dark Sacred Assembly, but also the success of the D family. Chapter 6173. Since the establishment of the Dark Sacred Assembly, there would be cultivators arriving here every day. Unlike before, where they couldn't see the light of day, every practitioner was pleasantly surprised to register as a member of the Dark Guild and receive the Dark Attribute training method. This was a pleasant surprise for all dark cultivators. The cultivation method of the Dark Attribute had been lost for many years. Over the years, no one had been able to cultivate it. They never thought that they would have it all now. For a time, almost all dark cultivators worshipped Bewitching as a god. That kind of worship and reverence was not something that other guild leaders could have. Bewitching became the guild leader of the Dark Sacred Assembly without any surprise, and under his decision, Huang Futing became the vice guild leader of the Dark Sacred Assembly. Usually, he would not stay in the Dark Sacred Assembly often, and Huang Futing and Qin Wan had already planned to take root in the Emperor Cloud City, so he was undoubtedly the most suitable person to be the vice guild leader to deal with many matters of the Dark Sacred Assembly. Huang Futing did not expect that Bewitching would hand over such a heavy responsibility to him, and he was a little flattered. He originally wanted to refuse, but after hearing Bewitching's various reasons, he did not refuse and accepted it. For so many years, he had been organizing dark cultivators to gather together, but to complete this pioneering work, they alone were not enough. The most fortunate thing was that his vision was not wrong. Choosing Bewitching as the young master was the wisest decision. Bailey Hongzhuang's current identity was also very magical. Since her dual attribute identity was exposed, she had become the Dark Sacred Lady. Lu Hongwei also clearly told everyone that he had never agreed to let Bailey Hongzhuang resign from the position of the Light Sacred Lady. No matter what she did in the future, the Light Sacred Lady would only be her. Bailey Hongzhuang knew Lu Hongwei's good intentions and did not refuse, not to mention that she was the true successor of the Light Sacred Lady. Therefore, under such circumstances, Bailey Hongzhuang had a dual identity. Not only was she the Light Sacred Lady, but she was also the Dark Sacred Lady. However, no one objected to such a situation. In addition, Bewitching also selected a few deacons from some outstanding cultivators. At the same time, he also left some empty positions. If any of the new members were found to be outstanding, these positions would be reserved for them. Perhaps it was because the path of the establishment of the Dark Sacred Assembly was too difficult, but all the dark cultivators were obedient to Bewitching's orders. Therefore, the entire guild proceeded in an orderly manner. Jue had also instructed Bewitching in this aspect. He believed that Bewitching had the ability to handle these matters, but he also knew that the young master was not the head of the family and would not understand many small matters. Most of the time, these small matters had a great impact. On this day, Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang had just returned from the Dark Sacred Assembly when they were informed to go to the assembly hall to discuss some matters. The two of them looked at each other, but did not stop. Instead, they hastened their footsteps and hurried to the meeting hall. Every time they went to the meeting hall, it was almost always an extremely important matter. Presumably, the head of the family had made a decision and wanted to inform everyone. When Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang arrived, they discovered that everyone was gathered here. Other than the heads of the Di family and Lin family, Lan Yunxiao, Sidi Yen, and the others were also present. Chapter 6174. Bewitching and Hongzhuang have also arrived. Seeing the two of them, Jue's expression eased a bit, revealing a trace of a smile. Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang bowed and sat down at the side. Since everyone is here, then I'll get straight to the point and talk about the purpose of calling them here today. Jue's voice rang out. After the establishment of the Dark Sacred Assembly, I believe everyone is very clear about the Jun family and Xiao family's attitude towards us. As long as there's a possibility, they'll think of a way to deal with us. Hearing Jue's words, everyone's expression sank. As early as the day, they were extremely angry with Jun Hongcheng and Xiao Yanlong's actions. These two fellows were constantly waiting for an opportunity to catch them all in one fell swoop. As long as they were slightly careless, their memories could be stolen by them. This feeling was very unpleasant. That's right, the Jun family has been deliberately plotting to deal with us all these years. Now, the Xiao family has also been reduced to jackals of the same lair. Di Linxuan's eyes were cold. They had long wanted to remove these two malignant tumors. However, because the difference in strength between the two sides wasn't big, they had always been apprehensive. After all, the mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Before they had a foolproof plan, they couldn't act rashly. Otherwise, once the entire family was implicated, they would become sinners for all eternity. It was precisely because of this consideration that the Jun family had become more and more excessive over the years. Therefore, I've decided to remove this malignant tumor. Jue's expression was solemn. He had already said ruthlessly that as long as his family didn't fall this time, he would definitely destroy the Jun family and Xiao family. He couldn't tolerate these fellows thinking of ways to secretly harm his family, and the only way to solve all of this was to kill them and eliminate all future troubles. Even if he had to pay a price for doing so, from a long-term point of view, this was definitely a good thing. Although the Di family and the Jun family hadn't had any major conflicts in the past few years, there would always be many casualties due to the enmity between the two families whenever their disciples went out to train. As for the conspiracies and battles between adult cultivators, there were countless of them. They had never carefully calculated it, but the things they remembered in their minds were already a terrifying number. In the past, it was because they didn't have enough strength and confidence. But now, the Di family was no longer the same as before. In addition, the Jun family had been hit hard several times in a row. Their strength was no longer the same as before. Making a move now was also a very good opportunity. If it weren't for the fact that the matter with the Dark Sacred Assembly had just ended and he still needed some time to deal with the family matters, he would have taken action the next day. For a moment, no one spoke. They agreed with this idea very much. Everything that Jun Hongcheng had done over the years was unbearable and unforgivable. If they hadn't been lucky enough to turn misfortune into blessings every time, they really didn't know what would have happened to them now. They didn't want such things to happen again in the future. Things like luck couldn't be guaranteed. Even if they were unlucky once, it could be a devastating blow. Father, are you going to make a move now? Bewitching asked aloud. Chapter 6175. Are we just going to give up on the land of inheritance? Di Xiaofeng frowned. He was 100% in favor of exterminating the Jun family. It was just that the Jun family had always endured for the sake of the land of inheritance. With Jun Hongcheng's personality, if the Jun family suffered heavy losses, he would definitely put the secret key in a place where no one could find it. At that time, the Di family might never be able to open the land of inheritance. A trace of hesitation flashed through Diu Jue's eyes, and then they became resolute. Even if the land of inheritance is never opened in the future, we can't let the Jun family continue to exist. The magnetic and loud voice was filled with determination and certainty. Diu Jue's expression was calm. He had already thought about this matter carefully before. In fact, Jun Hongcheng and Xiao Yanlong had been threatening him with this matter for a while. This feeling of being threatened was very uncomfortable. He didn't want the Di family to be kept in check like this, so he decided to go all out. As soon as the Hell deity finished speaking, the expressions of everyone shook. They hadn't expected that Diu Jue would actually make such a decisive decision. This wasn't a small matter for the entire Di family. Diu Jue turned to look at Di Linxian. Father, Jun Hongcheng and Xiao Yanlong are very clear that the secret key is our weakness. We already gave in once before, but they actually did something like this during the establishment ceremony of the Dark Sacred Assembly. It's clear that they have a trump card. If we give in again and again, it will only make their arrogance rise. If they can threaten us once, they can threaten us a second time. Rather than that, it's better to give up everything. If we can get the secret key, that's naturally the best. But if we can't, we'll have one less enemy to scheme against all day. It's a good thing for the entire family. Di Linxian fell into silence. The Di family's land of inheritance had been passed down for a long time. This was already an open secret of the entire Di family. He had always hoped that the land of heritage could be reopened, and Beichen was the one who could open it. He had never thought that things would develop to this point. Once the secret key disappeared, the land of heritage might never be opened again. Lan Yunxiao and the rest didn't say anything. This was the Di family's matter. The choice between passing down the family's legacy and eliminating their opponents was a difficult one. It wasn't an easy choice to make. Old Lin, what do you think? Di Linxian turned his head to look at Lin Wenlan. He understood that everything Diu Jue said made sense, but it was really a pity to let the land of heritage become a treasure trove that could never be opened. Lin Wenlan also understood the importance of the land of heritage, so she did not make any assertions immediately. After a while, Di Linxian said, "It is indeed a good decision to get rid of the Jun family as soon as possible. We have tolerated them for too many years. It would be a good thing if we can end them as soon as possible." Hearing this, Diu Jue's eyes lit up. "Father, you agree? Before we take action, you have to think of a way to get the secret key. Although the chances of success are very small with Jun Hongcheng's craftiness, we still have to try." Lin Wenlan sighed in relief when she saw that Di Linxian had made his decision. "In that case, we have to prepare for battle again." Chapter 6176. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other. Neither of them expressed their opinions on this matter. In their hearts, Diu Jue had always been a very calm person. However, this series of events had really touched his bottom line. In fact, if Di Beichen hadn't summoned a large number of skeletons this time, the Xiao family and the Jun family might have caused them to lose everything. They clearly remembered Diu Jue's angry look at that time. It was obvious that he didn't want something like this to happen again. He didn't want this kind of variable to threaten the family's life. Even if he had to give up the land of inheritance, he wouldn't hesitate. Di Beichen felt that Diu Jue's decision was correct. Although the land of inheritance was very mysterious, it was also very important to the family. However, it hadn't been opened for so many years, and the family hadn't changed much. The only regret was that they all knew that once the land of inheritance was opened, the family's cultivators' talents would be increased. This was the most amazing thing about the land of inheritance. Fortunately, The D family's position was very stable now. With the support of the Dark Sacred Assembly, the D family's position would only get higher and higher in the future. Sometimes, giving up was necessary. In that case, you should make a plan. When do you plan to take action? We'll set off together. Di Linxian was also a person who acted quickly. After making a decision, he didn't hesitate at all. Since they had to deal with it sooner or later, it was best to deal with it as soon as possible. Jun Hongqing might have already predicted that we would take action, so he took the opportunity to transfer some of the cultivators out and leave the family's bloodline. Lin Wenlan slowly said, "This kind of action was something that every family would do when faced with a calamity. So we will take action as soon as possible. I will arrange for some of the cultivators to set off first in these 2 days. After 3 days, we will officially take action." Diu Jue's tone was firm, strong, and decisive. Before he had gathered everyone, he had already made a comprehensive plan. If they wanted to destroy a family, the number of people needed would naturally not be small. If they rushed over on the same day, even with the teleportation array, it would still take a long time. After all, the teleportation array could only transport a limited number of people at a time. They simply did not have the time to waste on it. Therefore, they needed a certain amount of time to let these cultivators go in batches. When the time came, they would gather and begin the operation. "All right, I'll leave it to you." Di Linxian nodded. Seeing this, Di Beichen also said, "I'll also go to the Sacred Assembly so that everyone can make some preparations. If it was just to deal with the Jun family, then the Di family alone would be enough." However, no one knew if the Shao family would also be involved. Therefore, the more people that went, the better. Even if the outcome was inevitable, reducing the number of casualties was still their biggest goal. "I'll have to trouble the cultivators of your guild." "Don't worry, father. They will be very happy." Di Beichen smiled. Currently, the Dark Sacred Assembly was developing very well. Although it had only been a few days, the joyous and harmonious appearance of everyone was not just for show. He had confidence in his sacred assembly. Good. Diu Jue patted Di Beichen's shoulder with satisfaction. His face was full of joy. "I'll leave it to you." Chapter 6177. For a time, the Di family began to get busy again. In a short period of time, many cultivators had already received the order from the family head. After hearing this order, everyone was stunned at first, then revealed a pleasantly surprised expression. "Really? Is the family head really going to attack the Jun family? That's great. I've been unhappy with the Jun family for a long time. Over the years, they've become more and more annoying. I can finally take advantage of this opportunity to vent my anger. That's right. Those guys who make people sick should have died long ago." The hatred accumulated over the years had been engraved in everyone's hearts. Now that they were finally going to have a decisive battle, everyone couldn't help but be excited. Not only some young cultivators, but even some older cultivators couldn't hold back the excitement in their hearts at this moment. They were also people who had fought with the Jun family. Whether it was the young master's matter, the alchemy competition, or Di Kaiyuan, everything had poked at everyone's heart. Every time they learned that the mastermind behind the scenes was the Jun family, they couldn't wait to tear the other party into pieces. However, they also understood that the family couldn't attack without caring about anything, but they didn't expect it to happen now. "Master, it seems that everyone really hates the Jun family." Xiao Hei couldn't help but sigh when she saw the excited expressions on everyone's faces. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. "The things the Jun family has done over the years are indeed disgusting. It's normal for everyone to have such feelings." Di Beichen had a lot of support in the Dark Congregation. After he said this matter, almost all the cultivators signed up without hesitation. "Young master, you don't have to make a special trip to this matter. You just have to pass the message. As long as you need it, everyone will definitely respond immediately." Huang Futing smiled. Even if many people had already changed the title of Di Beichen to president, he still maintained this title. This was because there was a contract between him and Di Beichen, a contract that he was willing to sign. This title also proved that they were closer to each other. Di Beichen smiled faintly. He had already guessed that no one would back down, but when he saw that everyone was more enthusiastic than he had imagined, he felt an indescribable satisfaction in his heart. If only Master could see this scene, it would be great. The dark cultivators had suffered a lot over the years, and now the good times had come. Since it's such a big matter, I naturally have to come. All right, every participating cultivator will be rewarded. Help me take charge of this matter. Don't worry, young master. Leave this to me. After giving the orders, Bewitching returned to the D family. Bewitching, can we take a look at the entrance to the land of heritage? Seeing that Bewitching had returned, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately voiced her thoughts. Hearing this, Bewitching raised his eyebrows slightly. Why do you suddenly want to go take a look? We've been waiting for a chance to enter the land of heritage, but after this incident, we may never have the chance to enter again. So, I want to take a look at the entrance. I also want to know if there are any other ways to open the land of heritage other than the secret key. They all agreed with their father's approach, but they couldn't help but feel pity for such an opportunity. Bewitching's lips curled up slightly, and he suddenly stretched out his hand. Chapter 6178. Since it's a place my wife wants to go, why not? Bewitching held her soft little hand and slowly walked towards the back of the mountain. He also wanted to see what the entrance to the land of heritage looked like. As a person with the cursed body, he had always been regarded as the only hope to enter the land of heritage. However, no one would have thought that this place would become a place where they could no longer enter. The D family's territory was very large. Even though they had lived here for so long, there were still some places that they had never been to. As the two of them walked to the back of the mountain, they realized that there were still cultivators from the D family guarding the place. Young master, madam. The guard bowed respectfully. Let's go up and take a look. The back of the mountain was very large and surrounded by mountain peaks. It was not very conspicuous among the mountains. However, this was an extremely important place for the D family to pass down their heritage. Today's sunlight was very faint. It was bright but not dazzling. As it shone on the body, it gave off a sense of warmth. Accompanied by a gentle breeze, the smell of grass wafted to the tip of their noses. It was comfortable and relaxing. Such good weather, it's really suitable for going out. Bailey Hongzhuang spread out her hands and allowed the breeze to caress her body. It was as if her whole body could float with the wind. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's delicate and beautiful face, Bewitching's gaze became even gentler. Fortunately, he had such a cute person by his side all this time. Let's continue. Opening her eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang naturally held Bewitching's hand. That warm feeling made her heart calm down. The smile on Bewitching's lips never disappeared. Even if he was just quietly looking at Bailey Hongzhuang like this, it was a kind of happiness. Soon, the two of them arrived at the land of heritage. In front of them was a circular altar-like existence. It was entirely made of white jade and faintly had a hint of cyan antiquity. The entire altar was very large and gave off a sense of grandeur and magnificence. The moment he arrived, a heavy sense of history hit him in the face. Everything here had a sense of vicissitudes of history. Vaguely, Bailey Hongzhuang actually felt that everything here was very similar to when she had entered the Darkness Temple and Radiant Saint Hall. Even though everything here looked simple, the feeling it gave her was very similar. What a magical place! Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. Bewitching looked at the scene in front of him and was also shocked. This altar looked very simple. There weren't many complicated totems, and it didn't have the mysterious aura of an ordinary altar. It looked simple and ordinary. Perhaps it was because it was too simple that it gave off a feeling of returning to simplicity. The circular altar was enshrouded in white mist, and there was only a small round base in the center. This circular tray was very delicate. It was circular in shape, but it was split into two in the middle. However, there was a gap in the most important position, so the two halves were still connected. Noticing this, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood. If I'm not wrong, this should be the place where the blood fuses, right? Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at Bewitching, her eyes filled with curiosity. Bewitching nodded slightly. That should be the case. The two of them walked to the back of the altar. There was a huge stone door here. Chapter 6179. Obviously, this should be the place where the 3 keys were placed. Thinking back, it was really strange back then. The keys to your family's inheritance fell into the hands of the 3 families. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Thinking back, the 3 family heads should have been on very good terms. She didn't expect that after so many years, they would become enemies. If the 3 seniors knew about the current situation, they would be very disappointed. However, time had changed too many things. Even families that had always been very close would change because of some accumulated resentment. Hearing this, Di Beichen nodded slightly. I also think this is very interesting. Back then, it seemed that the ancestors of the 3 families had discovered this place together. However, in the end, it became our family's land of inheritance. However, the things in this land of inheritance are not only for our families. Although the land of inheritance hasn't been opened for many years, I've checked the previous records. It said that every time the land of inheritance opened, the 3 families would reap great rewards. I see. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. So everyone's land of inheritance is a very good opportunity for the 3 families. Indeed. However, the gap between the opening of the land of inheritance became longer and longer. Perhaps it has something to do with the deterioration of the relationship between the 3 families. Di Beichen's gaze was distant. Because of this land of inheritance, the 3 families had developed to this stage. Thinking about how this land of inheritance might not be opened again in the future, he felt a little uncomfortable. The Jun family had been protecting the 3 great families for such a long time. From now on, the Jun family would completely disappear from this world. Their primary goal was to get rid of the Jun family. After that, the Shao family would be the next step in their plan. After so many years of friendship, in just a few short years, it had deteriorated to this extent. But who could say whether it was right or wrong? Everyone stood on their own standpoints and made decisions for the good of the family. Just like how the Jun family and the Shao family tried to deal with them, in order to protect their families, they could only destroy each other. Bailey Hongzhuang quietly looked at the totem in front of her. She only felt that the place where the 3 keys were placed was very mysterious. This totem had an indescribable aura of simplicity. Beichen, don't you think this totem looks familiar, as if you've seen it somewhere before? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. She didn't know why she had such a feeling, but she couldn't control it. Di Beichen slowly walked closer and his gaze fell on the place where Bailey Hongzhuang was looking. With this look, his heart seemed to be touched for a moment. It was as if he had seen something that had been deeply imprinted in his heart many years ago. It was an indescribable sense of familiarity. Most importantly, the resonance from the bottom of his heart was a feeling he had never felt before. How could this be? Di Beichen stared at the ancient totem in a daze, his mind blank. He had no way to think about whether he had really seen such a totem before. What he was more curious about was why he had such a strong feeling. What happened? Bailey Hongzhuang noticed that Di Beichen's expression was different from usual, and a look of concern appeared on her face. Chapter 6180. Di Beichen did not answer Bailey Hongzhuang, and simply stared at the ancient totem in the same posture. An indescribable sense of familiarity filled his heart. He felt as if he had once lost a piece of his heart, and the totem in front of him was related to the missing part. Bailey Hongzhuang sized up Di Beichen. She did not understand why Di Beichen had suddenly become like this, but she also knew that the latter must have fallen into a strange state of mind. This situation was similar to the time when Di Beichen suddenly had an epiphany in front of the gate of the Darkness Shrine. This was the inheritance of the Di family, and Di Beichen was the fated person who was most likely to unlock this inheritance. Hence, such emotions were not strange. However, why did Di Beichen's expression look so sad? It was a kind of sadness that emanated from the bottom of his heart, as if it was an unbearable pain in life. Even despair would not be this bad. She slowly shifted her gaze away from Di Beichen and looked at the totem again. There had always been a kind of complicated emotion in her heart, and she felt as if she had really seen this totem somewhere before. Most importantly, she did not know if she had been affected by Di Beichen's emotions, but there was also an indescribable sadness that spread in her heart. She stared at the totem, and when she came back to her senses, she suddenly realized that she had unknowingly burst into tears. How could this be? Bailey Hongzhuang wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes. It was clearly the first time she had come to this place, so where exactly did these emotions come from? At the same time, Bewitching also came back to his senses, and his eyes turned red. It was obvious that he had been suppressing the emotions in his heart previously. Bewitching turned his gaze, and found that Bailey Hongzhuang was actually crying, and his heart tightened. "Dear, what's wrong?" Seeing the concern on Bewitching's face, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly heaved a sigh of relief. When she saw Bewitching's expression earlier, she suddenly felt that it was a little strange, and at this moment he was the one who had always been by her side. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and shook her head. "I'm fine. I don't know what happened just now, but when I looked at this totem, my heart felt very sad." "You too, right?" she said in a certain tone, because Bewitching's expression from earlier was deeply imprinted in her heart. Bewitching did not deny it. "Looking at this totem, there is indeed a very strange feeling. Perhaps we have been affected by the emotions of the land of heritage. Back then, the three great clans were on such good terms, but in the end, they ended up like this. That's why even the land of heritage felt sad." Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang fell into deep thought. Was it really like this? She did not know. Since we are already here, we see if we Bewitching's blood, we can't. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her willowy eyebrows, her eyes filled with interest. All this time, only the blood of the D family and Shao family cultivators could light up the land of heritage. Once the blood successfully opened the land of heritage, then they only needed to place the 3 secret keys on it, and the land of heritage would open. Although they did not have the 3 secret keys now, if they were lucky this time, they might be able to gather all of them. This way, the D family would no longer need to be kept in check in the future. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's excited look, Bewitching smiled and replied, "All right." The dagger drew across, and the blood immediately dripped into the round tray. Chapter 6181. The blood on both sides gradually began to fuse through the gap in the middle. Gradually, the blood turned from its initial bright red color to a faint golden color, as if half of a gold leaf had been dissolved in it. It looked extremely dazzling. The more blood fused, the more intense the golden color became. In the end, all the blood had turned into a dazzling golden color and emitted a mysterious aura. Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching looked at each other as they watched this scene curiously. They had only heard from Diyujue that there would be a certain change after the blood of both parties fused, but they never thought that it would be such a change. Wow, how magical! Xiaohei looked at the situation in the round tray in astonishment. This was the first time she had seen such a thing. It was indeed worthy of being called the land of inheritance of a large family. "Master, since the blood has changed, does that mean that we can use your blood to open the land of inheritance?" Xiaohei looked curious. It would be impossible for an ordinary person's blood to fuse into this place to cause such a change, right? Bewitching's face showed a thoughtful expression. "Although I have always said that I wanted to give it a try, because of the secret key, I did not come. Father also did not explain this matter too clearly, so I don't know what is considered a success. In fact, it had been hundreds of years since the last time the land of inheritance was opened. Everything could only be found in the ancient books of the family. I vaguely remember that when Big Brother mentioned it, he said that if the blood of both parties turned black after the fusion, it would be a success." Bewitching frowned and his eyes were filled with hesitation. "Maybe I remembered wrongly." Black? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and felt a little disappointed. If it was black, then the color of their blood was obviously not right. Noticing the faint disappointment in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, Bewitching smiled. "At that time, Big Brother only mentioned it casually, so I didn't remember it clearly. It won't be too late to ask Father when we get back later. What do you think?" Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. "All right." Piercing Wind City. Xiao Yanlong stood in the courtyard with a worried look on his face. Ever since the establishment of the Dark Sacred Assembly and his return, he had been worried about a problem. How was Diyujue's attitude that day resolved? He was certain that Diyu Jue had the intention to kill him. After being friends for so many years, he knew Diyu Jue's character very well. He had always been a swift and decisive person. He hadn't made a move before, partly because he had many concerns, and partly because he hadn't made up his mind. When he was in the Dark Sacred Assembly, he clearly felt Diyu Jue's killing intent. With his character, it was impossible for him to change his mind after making such a decision. Moreover, when he faced Jun Hongqing, Diyu Jue had made it very clear that he would no longer be restricted by the secret key. In that case, Diyu Jue would most likely take action very soon. When he thought of this, he couldn't help but panic. Facing the current D family and the Dark Sacred Assembly, once they launched an attack, they wouldn't be able to stop them at all. After this incident, their former allies had unknowingly distanced themselves from them. Isolated and helpless, this was the true portrayal of their current situation. Just as Xiao Yanlong was thinking, he unexpectedly saw Jun Hongqing. Chapter 6182. Seeing Jun Hongqing's appearance, Xiao Yanlong already had a rough guess in his heart, but his face still showed a surprised expression. Jun Hongqing's mood was also very complicated. Ever since Bailey Hongzhuang told him the news that day, he carefully calculated the time and asked some cultivators who had some understanding of this matter, but the results he got made him very suspicious. However, he didn't have the time to measure all of this now. At this critical moment of the Jun family's life and death, he only thought about how to get the family through this difficult time. Brother Xiao, I think you understand the current situation very well. Diyu Jue is probably already preparing to take action. Jun Hongqing didn't say anything else, but went straight to the point. He came here today to ask for Xiao Yanlong's help. Ever since the incident with the Dark Sacred Assembly, he knew that this time it was really dangerous. If he couldn't find a way to get through this difficult time, perhaps the Jun family would really cease to exist in the future. He had never thought of this kind of result, and when this scene really happened in front of him, he also felt that it was very difficult to accept. Almost immediately, he had been looking for allies everywhere, but at this moment, those families who had a good relationship with him all pretended that they weren't familiar with him. Even if he proposed a very high reward, the other party's attitude was still resolute, and they weren't willing to relent at all. After repeated attempts, he found that the other party didn't want to take the opportunity to extort him, and his heart was filled with despair. The D family's rise now made many families fearful, and everyone was worried that they would get into trouble. If their families were implicated because of this matter, that was something that no one wanted to see. On the other hand, it was also because Di Beichen had a good relationship with the young masters of the Jiang family and the Murong family. If he wanted to deal with the Di family, the risk he would have to bear was too great. In a situation where it didn't concern them, there were simply not enough benefits to attract them to do it. After thinking about it, he only had the Xiao family left as an ally. Hearing Jun Hongqing's words, Xiao Yanlong sighed in his heart. I also guessed this point. If the Di family takes action, the Lin family will definitely take action as well. As long as the Dark Sacred Assembly also joins in with our strength, it will be really difficult. I know it's very difficult, but we have no way out. Jun Hongqing's face was serious and dignified. If this battle can't be avoided, we can only use all of our strength. Once our family disappears, the next ones to be dealt with will be you. His gaze was fixated on Xiao Yanlong's body. At this time, the Xiao family definitely could not leave just like that. Once the Xiao family also retreated, they would really be a dead end. Seeing this, Xiao Yanlong also nodded seriously. I understand what you mean. The Di clan is not only targeting you, but also me. This time, we have no choice but to fight. After hearing Zhao's words, the family, and the family's families. This was rights, this was a blessing, was the family's family. They were grasshoppers on the same rope, so the Xiao family would also go all out. Even if their chances of winning weren't high, at least it wouldn't be too bad. Brother Xiao, thank you. Jun Hongqing's eyes were deep, and there was a flicker of light in them. Chapter 6183. If we use the secret key as our final trump card, will there be a chance for us to survive? Jun Hongqing was a little uncertain. All along, they knew how important the secret key was to the D family. Every time the secret key was mentioned, Dyujue would be very concerned. However, when Dyujue said those words that day, the resolute expression on his face did not seem to be fake in the slightest. Speaking of which, we really took a wrong step this time. That's why we've fallen into this situation. Xiao Yanlong sighed. Dyujue must be concerned about the secret key. It's only because our actions this time almost caused the D family to be completely wiped out that he made such a decisive decision. Who would have thought that Lei Ming and the others would be so useless? Jun Hongcheng's face was full of annoyance. At that time, everything was clearly calculated and the entire plan could be said to be flawless. However, he did not think that the 5 presidents would be so useless. If they had brought more experts with them at that time, things would not have been so bad. Although the skeleton is very scary, as long as we had stopped Bewitching's actions before, so many things would not have happened later. Failed at the last step. Jun Hongcheng could not help but regret the moment he thought of the situation that day. If he had known that this would be the result, he would never have done that. No matter what, we'll think of another way when the time comes. If the secret key can be exchanged for a chance of survival, that would be the best. Xiao Yanlong's expression was complicated. Faintly, he felt that the possibility of Dyujue agreeing was very small. However, the land of heritage was still very important to the D family. Until that moment, no one would know what the result would be. Jun Hongcheng nodded slightly. This was the only thing they could do now. After Xiao Yanlong promised to lead the family's disciples to the Jun family tomorrow, Jun Hongcheng was completely relieved. In this kind of isolated and helpless situation, as long as they were not fighting alone, at least they would have more confidence. After seeing Jun Hongcheng leave, Xiao Sudong walked to Xiao Yanlong's side. "Father, should I inform the elders to make preparations?" Xiao Sudong's expression was complicated. In just a few days, he felt that his thoughts were completely different from before. This was because he realized that the family that he had always felt was incomparably strong could now disappear at any time. This feeling made him feel very panicked. Ever since he was a child, he had never thought that something like this would happen to him. Now, as the distance between him and Bewitching got closer and closer, he realized that the gap between him and Bewitching was so big. Whether it was Bewitching, Bailey Hongzhuang, or his sister, they were all much more than he was. When they encountered such a situation, they would at least have their own opinions. But now, his mind was blank. He did not know what he could do for the family's sakes. The only thing he could do was to listen to his father's orders and do what he could. Xiao Yanlong shook his head. "Su Dong, I have a mission for you." Chapter 6184. How can I take everyone away at this time? Xiao Sudong found it hard to believe. Although he knew very well that he couldn't do anything for the Xiao family with his current strength, he had already thought about it. If all of this was destined to come, then he would persevere until the end. Even if he had to pay with his life, as long as he was with everyone, he would not be afraid. However, wasn't what his father wanted him to do now? Xiao Yanlong looked at Xiao Sudong seriously and said, "Sudong, you are my only son and also the young master of the Xiao family. Perhaps after this time, the Xiao family will be completely removed from the upper realm, but as long as you are still here, and some of the young cultivators of our family are still here, at least the bloodline of our Xiao family still exists in this world." "No, I can't agree." Xiao Sudong shook his head. "I want to live and die with you." Looking at the determined Xiao Sudong, the corners of Xiao Yanlong's lips slowly raised into a smile. "I know I have never misjudged you. Ever since Sou's talent in the light attribute was discovered, I have been focusing on her cultivation. You are obviously my son, but you have never complained about what I have done. Until now, you still have the heart of a pure child." Xiao Yanlong was somewhat gratified. In the past, he had always felt that Sudong was not capable and could not be independent. Now it seemed that such simple emotions were more difficult for everyone to achieve. "Father, I have never minded these things." Xiao Sudong's face was calm. "Sister's talent is indeed more outstanding than mine. As long as the family can be good, I don't care about these things at all." Yes, if only I could have understood these things earlier. Xiao Yanlong sighed. If he could have listened to Sudong's thoughts earlier, perhaps they would not have reached this point. Unfortunately, the situation had already become like this, and he did not know if there was still a chance to change it. There was no point in regretting it. Father, I don't want to leave. Sister needs to be protected the most now. Let sister take everyone away. Xiao Sudong said. Your sister will leave. She is pregnant, and the Jun family will not let her stay here. Then isn't it fine? Let sister take everyone away. I want to stay here. Xiao Sudong said seriously. Xiao Yanlong's voice was resolute. You must leave. There is no doubt about this. Father. If you don't leave, from today onwards, you and I are no longer father and son. Xiao Yanlong's voice was cold and stern. His eyes turned red, revealing anger and pain that he was enduring. Looking at Xiao Yanlong like this, Xiao Sudong's eyes gradually became moist. How could he not understand that his father was doing this for him to survive? But this kind of life was not what he wanted. Sudong, for the entire family, the most important thing is to leave behind the bloodline. It was because he had done something wrong that he brought disaster to his family. As my son, you have an obligation to help me make up for this mistake. Hearing this, Xiao Sudong looked at Xiao Yanlong in a daze. Such words indeed made it impossible for him to refute. After a short while, Xiao Sudong nodded, and his voice was filled with reluctance and forbearance. Father, I'll definitely bring everyone out safely. Chapter 6185. If the Xiao family has the chance to escape this disaster, you can come back. Xiao Yanlong's lips curled into a smile. It was clearly a smile, but Xiao Sudong felt unusually bitter. After settling everything, Xiao Yanlong did not tell anyone and quietly left the family. The Di family. When Diyu Jue heard the news from the cultivators, his expression became very complicated. Yu Jue, Patriarch Xiao came to look for you at this time. Could it be that they've already noticed our movements? Lin Yunqing's eyes were filled with thoughts. They had been very careful with their movements this time and hoped that they would not alert the enemy. However, they knew very well that with so many cultivators heading there, it would naturally be a big commotion. It would be very difficult for them not to be noticed. Diyu Jue looked out of the house with deep eyes. He looked like he was in a daze. No one knew what he was thinking. He should have guessed my movements long ago. The reason why he came here today is probably to negotiate with me. Diyu Jue slowly said, Do you plan to meet him? Lin Yunqing sized up Diyu Jue's expression. She knew her husband very well. Usually, as long as it was Diyu Jue who made a decision, he would never change it. No matter what Xiao Yanlong said today, it would be useless. Meet him? Why not? Diyu Jue chuckled, but there was no smile in his eyes. Since he dares to come here alone, how can I let him come here for nothing? Lin Yunqing did not say anything else when she saw Diyu Jue's strange expression. She clearly remembered the scene of Diyu Jue and Xiao Yanlong drinking and chatting happily a few years ago. However, no one expected that in just a few years, the relationship between the two parties had deteriorated to such an extent. Now that she recalled the scenes from back then, it felt like a lifetime had passed. Soon, Xiao Yanlong's figure appeared in the Di family. When the cultivators of the Di family saw him, they could not help but feel puzzled. Patriarch Xiao? Why is he here today? They might be here to beg for mercy. With the strength of the Xiao clan, they are no match for us. It's useless to beg for mercy now. After doing so many terrible things, it would be too easy if he could be let off just by begging for mercy. Facing Xiao Yanlong, no one had a good expression. Bailey Hongzhuang and Mu Lingbing were passing by. When they noticed Xiao Yanlong's appearance, their expressions changed slightly. Hongzhuang? Isn't that the head of the Xiao family? Mu Lingbing was surprised. According to their plan, they were going to attack the Jun family in 2 days. According to their judgment, the Xiao clan would definitely help when the time came. Therefore, when the time came for them to take action, the two families would have to deal with them together. For Xiao Yanlong to appear here at such a sensitive time, his intentions were indeed worthy of consideration. Xiao Yanlong should also be very clear that once he fights with our clan, he will definitely lose, so he wants to seek peace. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. She understood the tricks of these people very well. Doesn't that mean that he betrayed the Jun family? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. In a life and death situation like this, it's normal for him to make such a decision. Chapter 6186. Noticing Mu Lingbing's expression, Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled softly. Her mother had never been a scheming person. Sometimes, it was hard to change one's nature. Even after experiencing so much pain, Mu Lingbing had always maintained her perseverance. If the head of the D family agrees to Xiao Yanlong's request for peace, then we only need to deal with the Jun family when we fight. If we use this method of taking them down one by one, won't we win faster? Mu Lingbing raised an eyebrow. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Mother, it's rare for you to come up with such an idea. Hearing this, Mu Lingbing was a little embarrassed. I've been listening to the fights between the mixed martial arts families, and I feel that it's impossible not to use some brains. It wasn't easy being the head of the family. Pulling one hair could affect the whole family. Once a wrong decision was made, it could affect the entire family. Actually, this is a good idea. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Although the Xiao family and the Jun family had always been in an alliance, she knew that this so-called alliance wasn't solid enough. Both of them were selfish people who had always been thinking for their own interests. As long as there was a better way out, they would abandon the other without hesitation. Therefore, if they wanted to take them down one by one, it would be very simple. But I don't think father will agree. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Why? Because father is fundamentally different from them. Inside the room, Diyu Jue looked at Xiao Yanlong outside the door, his expression calm. He spread his hands casually. Sit, this is your favorite chrysanthemum tea. A simple and ordinary sentence touched Xiao Yanlong's complicated heart. He still remembered that every time he came, Diyu Jue would always prepare his favorite tea. It was the same scene, but the situation was completely different. Xiao Yanlong didn't say anything. He quietly walked to the chair next to Diyu Jue and picked up the tea with familiarity. After taking a sip, his expression relaxed. It's still the same taste as before. With just one sentence, the two of them had different feelings in their hearts. I didn't expect you to come to me at this time, Diyu Jue said slowly. Actually, I didn't want to come either. Xiao Yanlong chuckled, the curve of his lips revealing a hint of ridicule. But when the family's life and death is at stake, I have no choice but to come. We've known each other for so long. You should know my personality very well. You should also know that my decision will not change. Diyu Jue faintly glanced at Xiao Yanlong. After being friends for so many years, they still had this bit of tacit understanding. I know. Xiao Yanlong nodded and slowly put the tea aside. However, I still want to give it a try. In the next moment, Xiao Yanlong turned his head and looked seriously at Diyu Jue, saying, Brother Di, we have been friends for so many years. For so many years, we have always supported each other. I know that I have done many wrong things in the past few years. I only hope that you can remember our old friendship and let us live. Diyu Jue looked at the urgency on Xiao Yanlong's face and suddenly said, Actually, I also didn't expect that we would end up like this. Our two families have been friends for many years. For so many years, we have always helped and supported each other. Chapter 6187. Xiao Yanlong's expression was serious. During this period of time, I will find a way to make up for the losses caused to the D family. Make up for it? Diyu Jue chuckled. Things have already happened, there's no use in trying to make up for it. Back then, when Bewitching broke off the engagement, I also said that I would find a way to make it up to you, but you refused without hesitation, didn't you? His deep eyes were filled with dark clouds. After being brothers for decades, he never thought that there would be a day when they would meet on the battlefield. However, the one who made this decision in the first place was Xiao Yanlong. Xiao Yanlong's voice faltered as he recalled Diyu Jue's apologetic expression. Compared to what the Xiao family had done, the D family's breaking off of the engagement was nothing. Xiao Yanlong opened his mouth, his face a little pale. I know that I was wrong. In fact, I've been regretting it since a long time ago. However, there's no medicine for regret in this world, and I have no way to change all of this. I can only continue to make mistakes step by step until I've made a terrible mistake in the end. Brother D, on account of our many years of friendship, can you be magnanimous and let us go? I promise that I'll never do anything to harm the D family in the future, never. Xiao Yanlong's face was serious. He did not tell anyone today and had come here alone. No matter what request Diyu Jue made, he would find a way to satisfy all of it, as long as they could live. Diyu Jue looked calmly at Xiao Yanlong's solemn vow and suddenly said, I'm very sorry that the relationship between our families has become like this, but I can no longer trust you. From the moment you stabbed Beichen and the others, there was no room for negotiation between our two families. He clearly remembered the scene of Jun Hongcheng and Xiao Yanlong trying to kill Beichen and the others that day. If it were not for the fact that these two children had amazing abilities, they might have lost their lives at that time. Xiao Yanlong's expression shook. Thinking about it carefully, he also felt very ashamed. Brother D, I can guarantee that such a thing will never happen again. I can guarantee it with my life. Xiao Yanlong's expression was serious. No matter what you need me to do, I can do it. In fact, your family's biggest enemy over the years has been the Jun family. As long as the Jun family disappears, everything will be resolved. As for what I have done, I will think of a way to make up for it. I will definitely not be your enemy in the future. I can give you all the things in our clan's resource room. Other than that, you can state any conditions you want. I can even give up my position as the Shao clan's patriarch, as long as you let us live. Xiao Yanlong nervously looked at Diyu Jue. He was already at the end of his rope. If Diyu Jue did not agree, he was not optimistic about the upcoming battle. He had even thought of disbanding the family and letting everyone escape. However, the family had its dignity. Once he did that, the entire Shao clan would become a complete joke. Unless they lived in seclusion forever and no longer used the surname Shao, even if the Shao clan really had the chance to rise in the future, they would not be able to establish themselves in the upper realm. How could he let all the fame that the Shao clan had built up over the years be ruined just like that? Looking at the anxious Xiao Yanlong, Diyu Jue sighed in his heart. Chapter 6188. Perhaps it was because he had been with Jun Hongcheng for a long time, so he didn't even feel the slightest bit ashamed to say such shameless things. There's no need to say any more. I've already decided on this matter. Brother D. Diyu Jue raised his hand and stopped Xiao Yanlong's words. Don't call me that. We're no longer brothers. If you really cared about our family's many years of friendship, you wouldn't have attacked Beichen. If the Dark Sacred Assembly hadn't been established successfully this time, you and Jun Hongcheng would have crushed my entire family without hesitation. Do you think you would hesitate? Diyu Jue stared at Xiao Yanlong. Before the latter could speak, his voice had already sounded. No, you definitely wouldn't. It's not that I haven't given you a chance. Don't you know that begging for mercy when you're at the end of your rope is the most meaningless? Don't say such useless words. It will only make me look down on you even more. Diyu Jue's eyes were cold, and his resolute and fierce appearance no longer had the slightest bit of brotherly love from the past. No matter who it was, as long as they touched his reverse scale, they would die. He wouldn't let his family fall into a dangerous situation because of a plea. If it weren't for the fact that he wasn't decisive enough when dealing with the Jun family, there wouldn't have been so many twists and turns later. Xiao Yanlong stood in place in a daze. He didn't expect that he would get such an answer after throwing away his self-esteem to beg for mercy. A thick sense of humiliation began to linger in his heart. Diyu Jue's every word pierced deeply into his heart. Okay, since you've made up your mind, then we can only meet on the battlefield. Xiao Yanlong nodded and put away his previous begging appearance. His expression once again returned to its usual deep state. Between us, there's only meeting on the battlefield. Today, I won't kill you. The next time we meet, you'll die by my hands. Diyu Jue stared at Xiao Yanlong, and the scene of them meeting for the first time when they were young flashed in his mind. Now, it really felt like a lifetime ago. Xiao Yanlong's body trembled, and his leaving footsteps paused slightly. Then he took another step and firmly left. The 3-day agreement arrived in the blink of an eye. During these 3 days, the cultivators of the D family, the Lin family, and the Dark Sacred Congregation were all rushing to the Jun family's residence. It was only on the last day that Bewitching and the others left with Diyujue and the others. Bewitching, I heard that the cultivators of the Jun family seemed to have realized what was going to happen. That's why the Xiao family has been sending cultivators to meet up with them. Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. The cultivators of the Dark Sacred Assembly were all over the upper realm. Now, they were very well informed. Di Beichen nodded slightly. Xiao Yanlong came to see father first. Although I don't know what they talked about, Xiao Yanlong should have already known about this at that time. So today's battle will be an all-out attack from both sides. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed faintly. She had never been to the Jun family before. She didn't expect to see such a scene on her first visit. Today, rivers of blood were destined to flow. The eyes of everyone present shone with a dazzling light. After so many years of enduring, they were finally going to have a good fight. In order to remove the Jun family from the upper realm, they had been preparing for too long. After the Bailey family learned about this situation, they also came. Chapter 6189. Jun family. Jun Hongqing stood at the back of the mountain. A gentle breeze blew, lifting up a corner of his clothes. Xiao Yanlong stood beside him, and both of their faces were indescribably dignified. If I'm not wrong, they should start taking action today. Jun Hongqing slowly said. Since he became the head of the family, he had always hoped that one day he would be able to kill the D family, but he didn't expect that this scene would actually happen to him. It wasn't the D family that was facing extermination, but them. Xiao Yanlong's expression was complicated. Ever since he talked with Diyujue, his mood became even more complicated. They had to fight with their backs to the wall. They had no way out. If they couldn't withstand it today, the two families would be completely finished. Let's go down, everyone is waiting for us. Jun Hongqing nodded slightly. Say Wu and the others have safely left, right? Don't worry, I have already arranged for them to leave. The place they found is very hidden. As long as they live in anonymity, they shouldn't be discovered. Xiao Yanlong's expression had a trace of gentleness. As long as Su Dong and the others were safe and sound, it could be considered as settling one of their worries. After Di Beichen and the others arrived, the cultivators who had arrived earlier rushed out and joined the team. In the blink of an eye, the team continued to expand, and finally, the momentum of an army was monstrous. After the cultivators of Junyang City saw the D family and the Lin family's teams gather, their faces were filled with fear. I said that there were too many cultivators here in the past 2 days. I didn't understand at first, but now it seems that the D family is preparing to attack the Jun family. A cultivator couldn't help but exclaim. The hatred between the two families had lasted for too many years, and everyone had almost become accustomed to it. However, no one thought that there would be such a day. My God, then won't a war break out in the Jun family today? Perhaps after today, the Jun family will no longer exist? Everyone looked at each other in dismay. This sudden situation was too terrifying. No one had expected such a thing to happen. This unexpected feeling made their hearts tremble. For a moment, they didn't know what to do. Some cultivators had already started contacting their families. Based on this situation, they would not rest until one of them was dead. In order to avoid being implicated, it would be safer for them to leave Junyang City as soon as possible. Otherwise, once they were affected by the flames of war between the two families, they wouldn't even have a place to cry. Diyujue looked at the group of cultivators behind him. His dignified and handsome face was unprecedentedly serious. He stared at the familiar faces in front of him and spoke clearly into everyone's ears. The Jun family has been plotting against us all these years. I don't know how many cultivators have died in their schemes. For the sake of avenging the fallen cultivators, and for the sake of preventing the future descendants of the clan from having to face this kind of trouble, we must completely remove this malignant tumor today. Diyujue's words were very simple, without any unnecessary embellishments. But it was these simple words that shocked everyone, and the blood in their bodies was instantly ignited. They knew very well how uncomfortable it was to be on guard all these years. As long as they could completely solve this problem, everything would be worth it. Remove this malignant tumor. Destroy the Jun family. Chapter 6190. The teams of the D family, Lin family, and the Dark Sacred Assembly walked in the direction of the Jun family. The cultivators of the entire Junyang city scattered like birds and beasts, rushing to pass the news. They really came. Hearing the news from his subordinates, Jun Hongcheng looked awe-inspiring. There was no emotional fluctuation on his calm face, but everyone knew that the family master was very uncomfortable in his heart. Boom! With a shocking explosion, the Jun family's door was blown open directly. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the destructive power of her bomb, and her eyes showed satisfaction. Ever since she came to the upper realm, she had rarely used explosives. This was because everyone was very strong, and the power of explosives might not be able to achieve good results. However, it was quite suitable to blow up other things. When the surrounding cultivators saw Bailey Hongzhuang taking out the explosives, they were a little puzzled. They didn't understand what she was going to do. Explosives were rare in the upper realm. Except for some low-level people who might use them to build houses, they didn't use them at all. Because the power of explosives was too small for them. However, when everyone saw that Bailey Hongzhuang threw an explosive and blew up the Jun family's door directly, their eyes showed surprise. This explosive seems to be a little different from the explosives in their impression. Sure enough, everything that second cousin-in-law takes out is different. Lin Yi was very calm. She felt that a lot of common sense was useless on Bailey Hongzhuang because the things in their impression were always different from the things that Hongzhuang took out. Diyu Jue's eyes also lit up after noticing the power of this explosive. Although this power was not enough for them now, it was still useful for cultivators with slightly lower cultivation. If they brought a few of these explosives when they went out for training, wouldn't it be a talisman? Not only Diyu Jue, but Di Lin Xian and Lin Wenlan also had the same idea in their minds. When they returned, they had to bring up this idea. After all, these young cultivators were the future mainstays of the family. After the door was blown open, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others could clearly see the Jun family's appearance. The structure of the Jun family was very similar to that of the D family. In fact, the structure of the Jun family was very similar to that of the D family. It was only due to the different preferences of the families that the styles differed. However, after everyone blew the door open, they found that the cultivators from the Jun family and the Xiao family were all holding weapons in their hands, ready to fight. Clearly, the other party already knew of their actions and was prepared to fight to the death. The atmosphere instantly became tense. Both teams stared at each other without blinking. Killing intent surged between the two sides. Everyone only had one thought in their hearts, and that was to kill each other. Jun Hongcheng and Xiao Yanlong's figures flashed and appeared in front of the group. Their gazes landed on Diyu Jue and the others. We meet again. Diyu Jue sneered at the corner of his lips, looking at the two with ridicule. Jun Hongcheng stared at Diyu Jue and the team behind him. His face was gloomy and dignified. I didn't expect, we are really going to fight. Chapter 6191. Jun Hongcheng looked at the calm Diyu Jue, his heart filled with mixed feelings. He had been looking forward to the day when the two sides would meet on the battlefield. He wanted to make a comeback and free himself from the relationship between the three great families that had always been suppressed. He wanted to surpass the D family and become the family with the most authority. However, he never thought that the D family would attack them in the end. What he didn't expect was that even after he roped in the Xiao family, they were still at an absolute disadvantage. Diyu Jue, as long as you don't fight today, I can guarantee that I will never be your enemy in the future. After a long while, Jun Hongcheng slowly said this sentence. Looking at the cultivators of the family, he couldn't help but feel distressed. He couldn't bear to see them die. Hearing this, Diyu Jue chuckled, his eyes filled with mockery. Haven't you always done this before? On the surface, you've never been our enemy, but behind our backs, you've always schemed against us. Thanks to you, many terrible things have happened to our family over the years. Jun Hongqing was silent. I know that what happened before was my fault. Now, I can swear that the D family will never have any conflicts with the Jun family, whether it's on the surface or in the dark. Don't put on this show. It's useless to me. Diyu Jue didn't give Jun Hongqing any more time to talk. He was tired of hearing these words. Just like what Xiao Yanlong said to him, it was meaningless to him, who had already made up his mind. His cold and resolute voice directly interrupted Jun Hongqing's words. His expression was very ugly, but it couldn't change anything. Even if I used the secret key in exchange? Jun Hongqing took out his last trump card. You should know how important this is to your family. I said I don't care. Diyu Jue's lips curled into a cold smile. It's because I believed your nonsense that the D family was almost wiped out. Although the secret key has been passed down for a long time, without you, the D family would have developed very well. Jun Hongqing's complexion turned ashen. He regretted what he had done on the day the Dark Sacred Assembly was established even more. Diyu Jue's words made him understand that there was no turning back. His gaze gradually became malicious and ruthless. In that case, let's fight. Jun Hongqing glared at Diyu Jue. Do you really think that the D family is invincible? If we really fight, you will know that we are not easy to deal with. A bone is just a bone. No matter how hard it is to chew, it will be chewed up sooner or later, Diyu Jue said calmly. Jun Hongqing coldly snorted and quietly exchanged glances with Xiao Yanlong. Both of them nodded at the same time. Chase them all out. The battle began at this moment. The elders of the Jun family and the Xiao family came out in full force. The elders of the D family and the Lin family also rushed forward. After the family heads and elders began to fight, a group of cultivators also rushed forward, unwilling to be outdone. They had been waiting for this battle for too long. With so many people's elemental energy surging together, even the elemental energy in the air seemed to be affected. The hatred between the three families had accumulated for too many years. Whether it was the young cultivators or the elders, their killing intent towards each other had never disappeared. Chapter 6192. Bailey Hongzhuang's figure moved and directly rushed into the battle. She also didn't have any good feelings towards these two families. In just a few years, she had been schemed against by these two families many times. Now that she had the chance, she naturally wouldn't show mercy. Xiao He and Xiao Bai enlarged their bodies and sent a few cultivators flying with a punch. On the day the Dark Sacred Assembly was established, these guys had thought of ways to slaughter the cultivators of the D family and the Lin family. Every dog has its day. Now it was finally their turn. Ling transformed into a dragon once again. With a sweep of her dragon tail, a large number of cultivators were sent flying as if they had been hit by a heavy blow. Boom, boom, boom. The power of the divine dragon tail whip was completely unleashed. Ling still remembered the grudge from last time. How could she not take revenge this time? Unlike last time, Jun Hongqing and the others couldn't deal with them at all. Just dealing with Diyu Jue and the others' attacks was already very difficult. They could only watch helplessly as their own cultivators were massacred. No matter how anxious they were, they couldn't do anything. Xiren, Shengguan Yingying, Mo Yunjue, and Ao Lingxiao were all killing in all directions. What goes around comes around. In this world where the strong preyed on the weak, they could only be crushed if they weren't strong enough. If they didn't have the power to protect themselves, they would have already died. They could only leave the upper realm and head to the immortal region with peace of mind if these guys completely disappeared from this world. Otherwise, they would have to deal with these poisonous snakes all the time. No one knew when they would be bitten. The momentum was monstrous. The sound of killing filled the sky, mixed with screams and cries of alarm. The Jun family's buildings collapsed one after another. In just a short time, the Jun family's buildings near the battle circle had become a pile of ruins. The thick smell of blood spread in the air. The ground was gradually dyed red with blood. Everyone's body was stained with blood. They couldn't tell if it was their opponents or their own blood. However, the burning determination in everyone's eyes never changed. Bewitching did not immediately join the battle. Instead, he began to summon skeletons again. When he first summoned it, he wasn't too familiar with it. After using it twice, he realized that he had become more familiar with it. Thinking about it, the more he used it in the future, the faster his summoning speed would become. Most importantly, with the help of these skeletons, the clan's casualties would be greatly reduced. Every single person was extremely precious to them. Although it was inevitable that some would fall in battle, it was also good to minimize the casualties. Huang Futing led a group of dark cultivators into the battle as well. These cultivators wanted to avenge the cultivators who died that day. Jun Hongcheng's heart tightened when he saw Di Baichen summoning the skeleton army again. In fact, this was what he was most worried about. In the next moment, he rushed directly towards Di Baichen. As long as the skeleton army could not be summoned, everything was still possible. After seeing Jun Hongcheng's actions, Diu Jue's figure flashed and directly blocked the latter's path. Jun Hongcheng, with me here, you can't get close to Baichen. Jun Hongcheng's face was gloomy. I'm going to kill you. Unfortunately, you still don't have the strength. Diu Jue's eyes were full of disdain. If President Liu hadn't appeared that day, you would have died at my hands. Chapter 6193. Diu Jue's figure flashed. His movements were as fast as lightning, and a terrifying attack directly attacked Jun Hongcheng. Bang! Their fists collided, and both of them retreated 100 meters. The tyrannical energy burst out, and the buildings on the side collapsed. Jun Hongcheng's expression was extremely ugly. He knew very well that if they really fought, he was indeed no match for Diu Jue. It was indeed too difficult for him to bypass Diu Jue and stop Di Baichen. Looking around, the cultivators of the Jun and Xiao family were almost all entangled with their opponents. Although each had their own advantages and disadvantages, it was obviously extremely difficult for them to clone themselves. Damn it! Jun Hongcheng cursed inwardly. Even though he was depressed to the extreme, he was powerless to change all of this. With his mind in chaos, Jun Hongcheng's combat strength was also affected. Diu Jue's attack landed fiercely on Jun Hongcheng's weak spot. Bang! A heavy blow landed on Jun Hongcheng's body. Jun Hongcheng's figure was quickly sent flying. He stabilized his body in midair and stopped. However, from his flushed face, one could tell that this attack had made him very uncomfortable. After seeing that Jun Hongcheng was injured, Xiao Yanlong also took advantage of the situation and rushed to Jun Hongcheng's side. How are you? They absolutely could not fall now. Once the family head fell, their morale would be greatly affected, and they would be defeated in a short period of time. Even if today's ending could not be changed, at least they could not let the Di family and Lin family have an easy time. Jun Hongcheng shook his head. I'm fine. You must hold on. Xiao Yanlong's tone was unprecedentedly serious. I understand. Jun Hongcheng replied. His gaze quietly turned around, and he transmitted his voice. We can't continue like this. We have to think of a way. Otherwise, failure is only a matter of time. Xiao Yanlong's face darkened. I know the current situation, but other than that, we have no other way. As long as we capture an important person and threaten them, we might be able to change everything. Jun Hongcheng narrowed his eyes. The Di family was indeed united. It was a good thing that they valued loyalty, but in a way, it was also a fatal weakness. As long as they could capture an important person, they could take the opportunity to blackmail the other party. Even if they couldn't change the ending, they could at least restrain the Di family. As Jun Hongcheng's voice fell, Xiao Yanlong also understood what he meant. With a thought, he had already thought of their goal. Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang's position in Di Baichen's heart was very important. After all the things that had happened during this period of time, they were well aware of it. Most importantly, once Bailey Hongzhuang was captured, Di Baichen would definitely be distracted, and he might not be able to summon these skeletons again. Killing two birds with one stone, this was definitely an excellent opportunity. The two of them had the same idea, and both of them had locked their target on Bailey Hongzhuang. Diu Jue did not expect the two of them to have come up with a plan in such a short time. However, he did not give the two of them any more time to communicate, and his figure charged forward once again. To catch bandits, first catch the ringleader. As long as these two fellows were subdued, the remaining cultivators from the two families would be nothing more than a bunch of loose sand. They would not be able to do anything at all. Chapter 6194. After Junhong Cheng and Xiao Yanlong had made their decision, they no longer hesitated. They were still at a disadvantage in the current situation. After all, the other party had more people than them. If they could seize the opportunity to control Bailey Hongzhuang and grab hold of the other party's weakness, there was still a possibility of turning the tables. After Lin Wenlan had closed the distance between them, he immediately attacked. Xiao Yanlong continued to dodge and quickly widened the distance between the two of them. He was unwilling to face him head-on. Damn it, this fellow is like a loach. He's too hard to catch. Lin Wenlan cursed silently. He had wanted to subdue Xiao Yanlong as soon as possible so that he could get twice the result with half the effort. He never thought that it would be so troublesome. Xiao Yanlong tried his best to shake Lin Wenlan off by a certain distance before his figure flashed and charged directly towards Bailey Hongzhuang's direction. The sudden turn of events had exceeded everyone's expectations. Junhong Cheng had also charged out at the same time. Clearly, the two of them had made up their minds to capture Bailey Hongzhuang. Hongzhuang, watch out! Diyu Jue hurriedly reminded her when he saw this. He had already increased his speed to the maximum, but he was still unable to catch up. Hearing Diyu Jue's cry, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes shifted slightly. She then noticed that Xiao Yanlong and Junhong Cheng were charging towards her from two different directions. Most importantly, the two masters' cultivation levels were higher than hers. They had used their auras to lock onto her as they charged towards her. Under such circumstances, it was very difficult for her to even move her body. It would be too difficult for her to take advantage of the situation and escape. Diyu Jue and the rest explained as their hearts sank. Bailey Hongzhuang was too important to them. Once Bailey Hongzhuang was under their control, they could guess what kind of conditions Xiao Yanlong and Junhong Cheng would propose. That kind of situation would be terrible. As they got closer and closer to Bailey Hongzhuang, the smile in Xiao Yanlong and Junhong Cheng's eyes continued to widen. As long as they seized this opportunity, they could use it to threaten Diyu Jue and even Di Beichen. With Di Beichen's feelings for Bailey Hongzhuang, it was not impossible for him to make such a decision. Bailey Yanche and the rest rushed over immediately, but they were too late to make it in time. In the next moment, Xiao Yanlong and Junhong Cheng arrived at Bailey Hongzhuang's location almost at the same time. Bang! Junhong Cheng directly attacked Bailey Hongzhuang. However, just as Junhong Cheng was about to throw his punch, he suddenly realized that his fist seemed to have landed on thin air. He had not hit Bailey Hongzhuang at all. The feeling of landing a punch on thin air was very uncomfortable. However, Junhong Cheng was not in the mood to think about all this at this moment. He was more curious about where Bailey Hongzhuang had gone. Xiao Yanlong was equally shocked. Bailey Hongzhuang had clearly been here just a second ago and he had locked onto Bailey Hongzhuang's aura. However, in that short moment, he realized that Bailey Hongzhuang's aura had disappeared. How could this be? Diyu Jue and Lin Wenlan's faces were filled with astonishment as well. At that moment, they had even thought about how they would deal with the situation once Bailey Hongzhuang had been captured. However, she had actually disappeared into thin air. Chapter 6195. Just as Junhong Cheng was in a daze, Diyu Jue's figure followed closely behind him. Bang! A ferocious attack flew fiercely towards Junhong Cheng. Diyu Jue was no longer careless and would not give Junhong Cheng any chance to escape. Bang, bang, bang. Their attacks were as fast as lightning. Many cultivators around them were sent flying by the impact of their attacks. Even the cultivators who were fighting did not dare to stay on the spot when they saw this scene. Their figures flashed and they quickly left. Lin Wenlan's movements were not slow either. Just as Diyu Jue and Lin Wenlan arrived, Bailey Hongzhuang's figure once again appeared before everyone's eyes. What's going on? Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's sudden appearance, the cultivators from the four great families' eyes were filled with confusion. Regardless of whether it was her disappearance earlier or her reappearance now, they could not understand how Bailey Hongzhuang had managed to do it. Bailey Hongzhuang heaved a sigh of relief. It was a good thing that her reaction was fast enough. When she realized that her aura had been locked onto and she was unable to move, she immediately entered the chaos ring with a single thought. Her aura had been locked onto and her body was indeed unable to move. However, her mental energy was not too affected, so she could still enter the chaos ring with ease. She only needed this short amount of time to do everything. With a single movement, Bailey Hongzhuang retreated from the master's battle circle. Jun Hongcheng and Xiao Yanlong watched Bailey Hongzhuang's departing figure. Their hearts were filled with vexation and helplessness at the same time. This Bailey Hongzhuang really could not be judged using common sense. The battle between the two sides continued. After this incident, the battle between the two sides became even more intense. In the distance, some cultivators from Junyang City quietly observed the battle. After seeing the scene of blood flowing like a river, everyone's hearts were filled with endless emotions. A family that had stood tall in the upper realm for so many years was now facing a disaster. The world was unpredictable and no one could predict the outcome. Hongzhuang, are you all right? Di Beichen's figure flashed and he came to Bailey Hongzhuang's side. A smile appeared on Bailey Hongzhuang's face. I'm fine. You've succeeded in summoning? Yes. Di Beichen nodded. As the number of summons increased, my summoning speed gradually increased. Practice makes perfect. Now, everyone can relax a little. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved slightly. The skeleton army's battle prowess couldn't be underestimated. Although the skeleton's army, the battles, they had already had the upper hand. Now, the appearance of the skeleton army, the battle's end. The skeleton army's speed was very fast. Not long after Di Beichen's successful summoning, they had already appeared in a grandiose manner. Seeing the appearance of the skeleton army, the faces of Jun Hongcheng and the others turned extremely ugly. Even though this scene was within their expectations, they still felt an indescribable pain when it appeared. This was because these skeletons were very lethal. Boom! With a collision of energy, Jun Hongcheng's figure was directly sent flying. He crashed heavily on the ground, creating a huge crater. Chapter 6196. Cough, cough. Jun Hongcheng fell into the deep pit. The sharp pain in his body and the blood that seeped out of his mouth made him cough uncontrollably. He coughed up blood clots. Up until now, although he had attacked Diyu Jue, the latter's strength was stronger than his, and his injuries were much more serious. Jun Hongcheng, go to hell. Diyu Jue's eyes were extremely cold, and a murderous intent spread from his heart. After waiting for so long, this day had finally come. He would definitely not show mercy. Seeing Diyu Jue's fist rapidly approaching, Jun Hongcheng's pupils shrank, and he subconsciously prepared to run away. However, right at the instant that he fled, Diyu Jue's fist struck out once more, and it directly blasted Jun Hongcheng's figure out of the deep pit. After being hit by Diyu Jue's all-out attack again, Jun Hongcheng spat out a mouthful of blood. His face instantly turned pale, and his aura quickly withered. Family head. The cultivators of the Jun family exclaimed when they saw that Jun Hongcheng was injured, and their eyes were full of anxiety. Diyu Jue. Jun Hongcheng looked at Diyu Jue, who was walking toward him step by step, and his face was full of horror. However, Diyu Jue's expression was extremely cold, and he did not pay attention to him at all. The fist came again, and Jun Hongcheng quickly moved backward, but this speed was useless. Bang! A tyrannical force burst out. Jun Hongcheng closed his eyes. He knew that he could not escape, but the expected pain did not appear. He opened his eyes and found that the Great Elder was in front of him. Great Elder! Jun Hongcheng's pupils shrank, and he looked at Jun Xianshao nervously. Jun Xianshao stood in front of Jun Hongcheng at the last moment. He was so anxious that he didn't have time to defend himself. He could only take the blow head-on. Family head, it's my fault. Jun Xuanxiao's eyes were red, and he looked at Jun Hongcheng apologetically. He was the one who made many mistakes in the past. If he had not been so narrow-minded, many things would not have developed to this point. Jun Hongcheng's eyes were also red. In the entire family, the great elder was the one who had the best relationship with him. He never thought that one day they would fall into such a situation. Diyu Jue looked at the two people in front of him, but there was no sympathy in his eyes. These two heinous sinners should have died long ago. Chi! A sharp sword directly into Jun Xuanxiao's body. Jun Xuanxiao's body twitched, and his face showed extreme pain. However, he soon lost consciousness. Jun Xianxiao is dead. You're next. Diyu Jue looked at Jun Hongcheng, his eyes as cold as ice. Jun Hongcheng stared at Diyu Jue, his eyes full of unwillingness. Diyu Jue, I admit that I have lost this time. However, a temporary victory does not mean that it will last forever. As long as the bloodline of the Jun family still exists in this world, sooner or later, the entire D family will be destroyed. Hearing this, Diyu Jue chuckled. I know that you have already sent people to take some of the young cultivators of the family away. However, do you think that I don't know about these arrangements? As soon as he said this, Jun Hongcheng was slightly stunned. His calm face suddenly changed. What did you do to them? Chapter 6197. As Diyu Jue's voice fell, Jun Hongcheng's face instantly turned pale. It was as if someone had taken away his last life-saving straw. He lost his mental support and became helpless and desperate. You found them? Jun Hongcheng couldn't believe it. He didn't want to believe it. After sensing that such a dangerous situation would happen, he had already planned to let some cultivators with potential leave. Even if the Jun family was finished, as long as the bloodline was still there, they might be able to recover after many years. This kind of thing had happened in the upper realm before. However, he didn't expect that Diyu Jue would be able to find them. I've been fighting with you for so many years. If I didn't have some understanding of your tricks, then I'd be too stupid. Diyu Jue chuckled and said. From the moment he decided to deal with the Jun family, he had the idea of catching them all in one fell swoop. How could he let the Jun family keep any cultivators with potential? Just like how Jun Hongcheng worked hard to prepare for all of this, he also worked hard to make plans for the D family. Jun Hongcheng stared at Diyu Jue in a daze. He was surrounded by a thick sense of despair. He had become the sinner of the Jun family. How was he going to face the ancestors of the Jun family in the underworld now? If you kill me, you'll never find the secret inheritance key. I don't need it anymore. Diyu Jue's expression was indifferent. The sharp sword in his hand suddenly pierced out. The sharp sword pierced Jun Hongcheng's heart. Without showing any mercy, Diyu Jue increased the strength in his hand and directly pierced Jun Hongcheng's body. With this sword, he was avenging Beichen and the many cultivators of the D family who had fallen. From today onwards, the Jun family would be completely removed from the upper realm. Family head. The moment they saw Jun Hongcheng fall, all the cultivators of the Jun family shouted at the top of their lungs with red eyes. The head of the family had always been the pillar of the family. Now that this pillar had collapsed, the entire Jun family would no longer exist. When Xiao Yanlong saw Jun Hongcheng fall, a trace of sorrow appeared in his eyes. This scene still happened in the end, and it happened in such a way that it made people feel so uncomfortable. Compared to the pain of the Jun family's cultivators, the cultivators of the D family and the Lin family were cheering, their faces full of excitement. Charge! The D family's morale was high. Their skeleton army acted as the vanguard, killing anyone who stood in their way. No one could stop them. With the death of Jun Hongcheng and Jun Xianxiao, Di Linxian had no more opponents. With his strength, it was easy for him to deal with ordinary cultivators. Within a short period of time, the cultivators of the Jun family and the Xiao family were utterly defeated. That day was soaked in blood. The entire Jun family was in a terrible situation, and blood flowed like a river. The tragic atmosphere spread. Two great families with infinite glory declined just like that, and were completely removed from the upper realm. From now on, everyone would only remember that there had been two great families like this, but they had completely disappeared overnight. Diyu Jue was also very tolerant of the cultivators who came to participate in the battle. As a reward, all the cultivators who found treasures would belong to them. These treasures were their spoils of war. All the cultivators couldn't help but cheer when they heard this. As a great family, the Jun family was extremely rich in both cultivation resources and wealth. Chapter 6198. Not only the cultivators from the Di family and Lin family, but many cultivators from the Dark Sanctuary were also in the same situation. The group of dark cultivators were initially a little embarrassed, but after seeing Di Baichen nod his head in agreement, everyone's face was filled with joy. To them, who were mostly grassroots, these cultivation resources were simply too important. After the battle ended, Diyu Jue and the rest did not stop. Although the Jun family and the Shao family's troops had been dealt with, they still needed to make a trip to the Piercing Wind City. "Father, I'll go with you." After knowing Diyu Jue's plan, Di Baichen immediately followed. After leaving a small group of cultivators to collect the spoils of war in the Jun family, the rest of the cultivators all headed to the Piercing Wind City. That place was also filled with treasures. The cultivators of Yang City watched as Diyu Jue and his group left in a grandiose manner. The thick smell of blood mixed with surging killing intent spread out from their bodies. Their cold eyes made people not dare to look at them directly. The Jun family and Shao family are completely finished this time. From now on, they will be removed from the upper realm. The rise of the Di clan is simply too fast. Right now, there's no one who can stop them. A starving camel is still bigger than a horse. The Jun family has a lot of treasures. I'm really envious just looking at them. What's the use of being envious? We have to wait until the Di family's troops have all left before we can go and see if there are any treasures that we have missed. If we run in now, we will definitely die. Everyone looked at each other and sighed in their hearts. Now, whoever dared to offend the Di family would be seeking their own death. I'm really envious of the dark cultivators now. A cultivator sighed faintly, causing everyone to feel the same way. In the past, the dark cultivators were despised by everyone. But now, with the support of the Di family, Di Baichen and Bailey Hongzhuang working together, the dark cultivators' prestige was much higher than other cultivators. Piercing Wind City. When Di Baichen and his entourage arrived, everyone in the Piercing Wind City was instantly attracted to them. There was no such thing as an impenetrable wall in the world. After the cultivators of the Shao clan poured out, everyone understood what was going to happen. When everyone saw the Di family's team appear here, they understood the result. Most importantly, the thick smell of blood wafted in the air. It had already spread from the moment they appeared, and there was no way to hide it. Even though everyone knew that the Di family now had the upper hand, they still found it hard to believe that the Shao family and the Jun family would be wiped out just like that. Is the Shao family really going to be finished? In my opinion, it's most likely over. In just a few years, the two families have changed so much. The Shao family. After Bailey Hongzhuang threw out 2 sets of explosives, the door of the Shao family was directly blown open. The Shao family only left a small number of cultivators in the family. After hearing the commotion outside the door, the remaining cultivators shuddered as their faces turned pale and ugly. They had been living in torment for the entire day because they could not see the situation in the Jun family. They could only passively wait for the result. This feeling was really devastating. After seeing the Di family's team, everyone's heart thumped as they had already expected this cruel reality. Chapter 6199. Following Diyu Jue's words, the cultivators from the Di family immediately charged forward. The remaining cultivators from the Shao family had panicked when they saw the Di family's team appear. Furthermore, the remaining cultivators were not strong cultivators in the first place. All the strong cultivators had already gone to the Jun family's residence. Therefore, under such circumstances, it was too easy for everyone to deal with this. In the blink of an eye, the cultivators had easily dealt with this matter. What was left was for everyone to search for the spoils of war. Bailey Hongzhuang was not in a hurry to search. She did not care about the spoils of war the most. What she cared about was the whereabouts of the secret inheritance key. Bewitching, do you think it's possible that the secret inheritance key is still here? Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at Bewitching. The world was so big, they could not determine where Xiao Yanlong and Jun Hongcheng had hidden the secret inheritance key. Perhaps they felt that the most dangerous place was the safest place, so they hid the secret inheritance key in an inconspicuous corner of their respective family. Or perhaps they had decided to make the secret inheritance key disappear, so they threw it in a place that no one would expect. Bewitching had a thoughtful look on his face. No one can understand the thoughts of these two old foxes, but we can look for it. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Now that Jun Hongcheng and Xiao Yanlong were both dead, no one knew where the secret inheritance key was. Looking for it was like looking for a needle in a haystack. However, they would not give up until they tried. Diyu Jue looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching's serious expressions, and a smile appeared on his face. These two little fellows really did not have any utilitarian thoughts, and had always been thinking for their family. It was really rare. For 3 consecutive days, Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching searched around the Xiao family's residence. Bai Li Yanche and the others were also helping to search. Their spiritual energy penetrated the ground, unwilling to let go of any possibility. However, no one gained anything. In my opinion, Xiao Yanlong and the others are so cunning, I'm afraid that they have hidden the secret key very far away. Shengguan Yingying frowned. Although the Di family could give up on the land of heritage, they all knew how beneficial it would be to the Di family. If he were to give up just like that, he would be somewhat unwilling. These two old fellows are really annoying, but we can't do anything about it. When Xiren sighed, it wasn't just the Xiao family. Many cultivators from the Jun family were also searching. No one was willing to give up. For 7 whole days, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others turned the Xiao residence upside down but still couldn't find the secret key. They could only choose to give up and embark on their return journey. The Piercing Wind City was the place where the headquarters of the Radiant Sacred Assembly was located. It was also the city closest to the Xiao family. This once bustling place gradually became desolate following the fall of the Xiao clan. Many cultivators left one after another, and even some businessmen chose to go to other places. The Piercing Wind City gradually became a dead city. Junyang City was also in the same situation, but this was a story for later. After returning to the Di family, the entire family began to celebrate. This time, they had achieved a complete victory. Chapter 6200. In the Di family's meeting hall. The heads of the Di family and the Lin family, as well as the various elders and even the outstanding younger generation, were all gathered here at this moment. The atmosphere was different from the usual. At this moment, the entire meeting hall was filled with laughter. Everyone's expressions were relaxed and they were in a good mood. For so many years, because they were constantly on guard against the other party's tricks, everyone's hearts had always been like a rock hanging in the air. Now that the rock had been put down, their mood was unprecedentedly relaxed. Although we won a great victory this time, we still missed a problem. After everyone's laughter, Diyu Jue's voice rang out. Hearing this, everyone turned their eyes and looked at Diyu Jue in confusion. Now, other than not being able to find the secret key to the land of inheritance, what other problem did they miss? The Jun family and the Xiao family both sent out their cultivators with potential at the first moment. Although I had already sent people to stop them at the first moment, and the Jun family's team was indeed destroyed, there were still people from the Xiao family who escaped. Was it Xiao Sou? Xiao Sou's figure instantly appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's mind. This woman had fought with her for so long, but she had to admit that she was also a person with great luck. Diyu Jue nodded. Not only Xiao Sou, but also Xiao Sudong. Everyone frowned slightly. Everyone was disgusted with Xiao Sou from the bottom of their hearts. This woman was a troublemaker. No matter where she was, she could always cause some trouble. If it wasn't for Xiao Sou, their relationship with the Xiao family would not have fallen to such a state. If I'm not wrong, Xiao Sou and Xiao Sudong were most likely taken away by Shuyu, right? Di Linxuan's eyes were deep, and no emotions could be seen on his calm face. This time, in order to eliminate the root of the problem, the team they sent out this time was not weak. Under such circumstances, the other party could still escape. Other than Shu Yu, there was probably no one else who could do it. That's right, it was done by Shu Yu. Diyu Jue's eyes turned gloomy. As Xiao Sou's master, it's not strange for Shu Yu to take action when Xiao Sou is threatened. However, with Shu Yu's protection, it will be very difficult for us to deal with them. Shu Yu, the #1 expert of the upper realm. Although the Di family's current strength was not to be underestimated, if they were to face Shu Yu directly, they would definitely suffer great losses. Let's not rush into this matter for now. Shu Yu only chose to protect Xiao Sou and the others and did not directly fight with us. This proves that he is somewhat wary of us. From another point of view, this is also a sign that he is not willing to be our enemy. If we take the initiative to look for trouble under such circumstances, I'm afraid we'll directly anger him. Di Linxuan's expression was solemn. Although a cultivator's strength was not very useful, when a cultivator's strength reached a certain level, their influence would not be small. As long as Shu Yu was willing to join a force, it was likely that the other party would be willing to offend them for the sake of such an expert. Although the Di family and the Lin family had won the battle, they had also suffered great losses. It would take some time for them to recover. Sigh, I never thought that Shu Yu would protect them so much. The great elder sighed. This caused them to feel a trace of regret in their hearts. Based on Xiao Sou's personality, we'll meet again sooner or later. Chapter 6201. Xiao Sou would definitely not remain calm after knowing that her family had fallen into such a situation. Even if she did not have the strength to contend against them, she would not sit still and do nothing. It was only a matter of time before they clashed. When Diyu Jue saw that everyone's mood was affected by this matter, he could not help but smile and said, "The reason why I mentioned this matter is to remind everyone. However, you don't have to take it to heart. Only 2 people from the Xiao family are left. They are not a threat to us." Everyone nodded and a smile appeared on their faces once again. Suddenly, Lin Wenlan's gaze fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. His gaze was filled with cordiality and curiosity. "Hongzhuang, I saw that the explosives you used a few days ago were quite powerful. Did you make them yourself?" "That's right. The explosives are indeed very powerful. The explosives I have seen on a daily basis are not as powerful as this." Di Linxian also looked at Bailey Hongzhuang curiously. At that time, he wanted to wait until this matter was over before asking Hongzhuang about the explosives. When young cultivators went out to gain experience, their safety was always a concern. However, the price of having a trump card for them was too high. It was impossible to popularize it. If there was a method to make explosives, the cost should not be high. Moreover, everyone could bring a few with them. Who knows, it might be effective. Seeing the 2 family heads asking about this matter at the same time, Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly stunned. She immediately smiled and said, "That's right. I made these explosives myself." "I didn't expect you to have some research in this area." Lin Wenlan had an interested look on his face. He realized that Hongzhuang was really involved in many aspects. "Actually, these explosives have always been researched by my master's wife. If grandfather and maternal grandfather are interested, I can ask my master's wife to talk about it." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and said. When Nangong Wu heard everyone mention explosives, she was very interested. One must know that she had always liked to research these things. Later, when Hongzhuang came to Limitless Palace, the 2 of them researched together. However, under Bailey Hongzhuang's research, the power of the explosives became even stronger. Although she had spent most of her time on cultivation after coming to the upper realm, she would still study it from time to time in her free time. She did not expect Hongzhuang to suddenly change the topic to her. "Your teacher's wife?" Lin Wenlan raised her eyebrows and asked in surprise. "That's right." Bailey Hongzhuang stood up and walked to Nangong Wu's side. "My master's wife has always been very interested in the study of explosives. The reason why I dabbled in explosives is because I learned from her. So it's Miss Nangong." Dujue smiled. Nangong Wu felt a little uneasy when she was suddenly stared at by so many people. Hong Zhuang is more accomplished in this area than I am. Master's wife, you are too modest. Bailey Hong Zhuang smiled. She had already vaguely guessed the thoughts of the two family heads. This task was undoubtedly the most suitable one for her. Miss Nangong, we feel that the power of these explosives is not bad. If we can make more of them and give them to the younger cultivators, they will have more protection when they go out to train. I wonder if Miss Nangong can help us with this? Di Linxian asked gently. Chapter 6202. Although this matter came unexpectedly, Nangong Wu, who had a cheerful personality, quickly accepted it after a short period of restraint. Don't worry, leave this matter to me. Nangong Wu was full of smiles. She was most interested in the matter of explosives. In fact, she had been itching to do this for a while, but because she was in the D family, she was too embarrassed to do this research, and she didn't have a place to test it. Now that this task was handed over to her, she couldn't be happier. Yu Linfeng looked at Nangong Wu's happy appearance, and his eyes were full of love. In the past, when they were in the Limitless Palace, Nangong Wu had always been free to do whatever she wanted. Now, it was very rare for her to be able to cultivate quietly in the D family for so long. Seeing Nangong Wu agree so readily, the smiles of Di Linxian and the others became more and more brilliant. Miss Nangong is really straightforward. Then we'll have to trouble you. It's no trouble, no trouble. Nangong Wu waved her hand. Since I came to the D family, I've always been indebted to you for taking care of me. I can't do much, so I'm very happy to be able to help out a little. By the way, other than these explosives, I made a little toy myself. Maybe it will be helpful to the cultivators in our family. At this time, Di Beichen's magnetic and pleasant voice sounded. Hearing this voice, everyone turned their heads and looked at Di Beichen in confusion. Young master, what did you do? All the elders had curious looks on their faces, and their eyes were filled with deep satisfaction and joy. Now, facing this young master, they could only trust him from the bottom of their hearts. What do you think of the formation I set up that day? Di Beichen raised his eyebrows slightly, and a mysterious smile appeared on his unparalleled face. Everyone was stunned, and they thought of the formation Di Beichen used on the day when the Dark Sacred Assembly was established. It was because of that trap formation that blocked a group of cultivators, giving Di Beichen the opportunity to use the summoning technique. You mean that trap formation? Dujue's eyes lit up. Di Beichen nodded slightly. The trap formation is very useful. If it can be used on a normal day, it will be of great help to cultivators. It's just that it's not easy to learn formations, and not every cultivator has talent in this area. Dujue's face revealed a thoughtful look. It would be good if they could master the formation, but it was not realistic to let everyone learn it. After all, many people did not have enough energy. They did not have the time to study other things other than cultivation. Father, take a look at this. Looked Nangong of Nangong Yu. Nangong Nong Nangong Dujue took the jade. It was a very simple piece of jade. It didn't even have any carvings on it. It didn't look special at all. However, after sensing it carefully, Dujue found that there was some special power in the jade. What's in this jade? Everyone looked at the ordinary jade curiously. They all understood that Di Beichen must have his reasons for taking it out at this time. Bailey Hongzhuang also looked at Di Beichen in confusion. In fact, she also noticed that Beichen was busy fiddling with something when he was refining pills carefully. However, she didn't ask about it in detail because Beichen wasn't just studying formations, he was also studying talisman arts. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.